Hello friends and welcome to this session. In today's session on design of three-phase induction motor, I'm going to talk about the contents those are shown on the screen. Firstly, I'm starting with concept of specific magnetic loading and electric loading. These two are very important concepts in design of electrical machine or design of induction motor. Then we are going to derive output equation of three-phase induction motor, choice of specific magnetic loading and choice of specific electric loading. So when we are selecting magnetic loading and electric loading for a induction motor, what are the factors on which these two values are dependent, that we are going to see in this video. I request you to please subscribe to this channel for more videos related to design of electrical machines and other electrical engineering topics. I also request you to please like this video. I'm confident in today's video all these concepts those are mentioned on the screen will be completely clear and you will understand each and everything about these four things those I have mentioned here. So we start firstly with the concept of specific magnetic loading. Friends, specific magnetic loading in case of induction motor, we have to understand that the magnetic circuit of induction motor or for the working of induction motor we required a magnetic field. That magnetic field is represented here in terms of specific magnetic loading, and it is the average flux density over the air gap of machine, that is known as specific magnetic loading. This is a basic definition, that this is average flux density over the air gap. Specifically, we are considering the flux density which is present in the air gap, and this flux density is going to play a vital role in working of any induction motor. This flux links with the secondary conductors, that is the rotor conductors. Then EMF gets induced in it. The rotor conductors will act like the current carrying conductors, those are placed in the magnetic field, and then they will experience the force and motor will start rotating. That is the basic principle of motor. Mathematically, average value of this flux density BAV is given by total flux in air gap divided by length of air gap, as it is given in the definition. Average flux density over the air gap means over the length of air gap. Hence it is given by phi p divided by pi dl. Now see, when we are considering phi is generally flux per pole. So we need to multiply it with the number of poles in order to get total flux. So total flux divided by length of air gap. Air gap, if you consider for the induction motor, air gap length when we are drawing, I can say this is your stator part, this is rotor part. In between these two, this is just for understanding, in between the stator and rotor there is air gap. So length of this air gap is nothing but, you need to consider this circle is representing the length of air gap. So if I cut this circle and open it like this, and if I measure this length, this could be the length of air gap, which is given by pi dl. Moreover, this can be written as length of air gap can be written as pi dl here, where d is diameter of stator bore, that is known to all of us. Again, this can also be written as phi tau upon L, phi tau upon L, where this tau is called pole pitch and which is given by pi d by p. It is representing the distance between two poles, which is represented by pi d by p. So number of poles, suppose there are 4, then we are dividing this distance into 4 parts like this, and this distance between any two poles which is same here is represented by pi d by p. pi d will be the circumference, and divided by p, that is number of poles, is going to give us the pole pitch. Then further, the terms those are mentioned here. Tau, as I rightly said, is a pole pitch. Phi is flux per pole in Weber. P is number of poles. D is diameter of stator bore, and L is length of stator. Hence, we can say that BAV is a specific magnetic loading, which is nothing but average value of flux density in air gap. This specific magnetic loading, when we are choosing, its range is from 0.3 to 0.6 Weber per meter square for normal design of machine, and it is between 0.6 to 0.65 Weber per meter square for special purpose design. When you are designing the machines for special purpose, the value of flux density should be high. Again, we are going to see the factors those are going to affect the value of flux density in coming slides. Another concept which is again important is the concept of specific electric loading. Specific electric loading is defined as the number of stator ampere conductors per meter of stator periphery at the air gap. So number of stator conductors, ampere conductors it is said. So ampere conductors is represented with IZ into Z, where Z is total number of conductors and IZ is current flowing through those conductors. So IZ into Z is total ampere conductor divided by periphery at air gap. Periphery of air gap is again circumference. We need to consider circumference, which is given by pi d. Hence, it is equals to specific electric loading, which is represented with AC, is equals to IZ by pi d. So ampere conductors per meter is the unit. Ampere conductors per meter is the unit for it. Where IZ is current through stator conductors, Z is total number of conductors, P is number of poles, D is diameter. So all these terms I hope you have understood. D is diameter of stator bore, as rightly mentioned there. Then range of AC, when we are choosing the value of specific electric loading, it varies according to rating of machine. For the machines up to 10 kilowatt, this value is 10,000 to 17,500. Then for 100 kilowatt machines, up to 100 kilowatt machines, 20,000 to 30,000, and for more than 100 kilowatt machines, this range varies from 30,000 to 45,000. So generally we could say the range of specific electric loading is between 10,000 to 45,000. These two concepts, if you understood, when we are choosing these two values, that is going to decide the other things those are related with design of electric machine. What are those other things? These values are going to decide the main dimensions. How much should be the diameter, how much should be the length. In other videos of mine, you can check the part which is discussed for design of induction motor, where significance of specific electric and specific magnetic loading is considered. Moving further, now we are trying to derive the output equation of three-phase induction motor. While deriving the output equation, there are some notations those we have considered, and those notations are: VPH is considered as phase voltage, IPH is phase current, ZPH is number of conductors per phase, TPH number of turns per phase, NS is synchronous speed in RPM, small ns representing the synchronous speed in RPS. Revolutions per minute is converted to revolutions per second, that is small ns. P is representing the number of poles. Q stands for specific electric loading, which is in our case, which is represented with AC. Further, phi will be air gap flux per pole. BAV is average flux density, which is also considered as specific magnetic loading. KW is winding factor. Then efficiency, cos phi power factor. D is diameter of stator. L is gross core length, and C0 is output coefficient. So all these are just the notations. We're going to see how to use these notations in coming derivation, that is the derivation for output of three-phase induction motor. So to start with the output of three-phase induction motor, the output Q in kilowatt is given by input into efficiency. Generally we know efficiency is equals to output upon input. Hence I can say output in kilowatt is equals to efficiency into input. That's what is mentioned here. So output is given by output Q in kilowatt is equals to input into efficiency. Then input of motor, if I am writing, that is generally given by we can say I want the input in kilowatt, so VPH is voltage into IPH into cos phi. This is going to give me the value. See, VPH is the voltage per phase, so its unit will be volts. IPH is current per phase, so its unit will be ampere, so it becomes volt ampere. Volt ampere is converted to watts by multiplying it with power factor. So power factor is converting it to watts. If I want it in kilowatts, I need to add 10 raised to minus 3 in the expression, and this becomes kilowatt. Moreover, one more thing which is important, VPH and IPH are considered as per phase voltage and per phase current, and my machine is 3-phase, hence I need to add 3 there in multiplication. So finally I will be getting input of the motor is equals to 3 VPH IPH into cos phi into 10 raised to minus 3 kilowatt. This many kilowatts is input, out of which the term VPH, which is considered equals to EPH, voltage per phase, is considered is equals to EPH, that is EMF per phase, by neglecting the losses. If this is considered, then the EMF equation for induction motor, or EMF equation, moreover we can say, which was coming from the transformer EMF equation, as basically induction motor and transformer, I can say the induction motor is generally called generalized transformer. So basic principles of both are same. Here in induction motor you have stator and rotor winding. There in case of transformer there is primary and secondary winding. Basically the flux is going to link with the winding, current is going to produce in secondary winding. When short circuit is provided, current flows, and the secondary winding conductors will act like current carrying conductors, so they will experience the force. In case of transformer, there is no arrangement for moving, there is no arrangement for movement of the conductors, it was stationary, hence the EMF gets induced in it. Here we can say the movement is possible, so force exerted is definitely going to produce some movement. Then rather the equation which is written, EMF equation I am talking about, EPH is equals to, for a 3-phase machine, EPH is equals to 4.44 F phi TPH into kW. F is frequency, no doubt, phi is flux per pole, TPH is number of turns, and kW is winding factor. That is understood by the notations. Then in this equation, I can say that F is equals to frequency F. Generally we have the relation for synchronous speed of induction motor. Synchronous speed is equals to 120 F by P. This synchronous speed is in RPM. When I convert it into RPS, when I convert this into RPS, I need to divide this with 60, as I am converting minutes to seconds. So when I divide it with 60, 120, you will get 2. So it is 2F by P. So the formula for synchronous speed in RPS, small ns, is the notation I can say is 2F by P. Hence from this I can say F is equals to ns P by 2, and that's what is written here. F is equals to nsP by 2. One more thing, you may have got confused with what is done here. TPH, when it is converted to ZPH, what has happened? For that you need to understand, see, we are converting this number of turns TPH here into number of conductors. You know, each turn, when we are making a turn like this, each turn has two conductors, conductor number 1 and conductor number 2. So number of conductors, when I am writing the turns in terms of number of conductors, that is going to become, see, TPH I have, TPH will have 2 into ZPH number of conductors. So moreover, in other words, what we did is I am writing here ZPH, so ZPH should be TPH by 2. ZPH should be TPH by 2. So I have divided this equation with 2, removed TPH from it and added ZPH to it. I hope you understood what I said just now. So frequency value I have got, I have written the value for TPH here. TPH is equals to, I have TPH is equals to 2 ZPH. So if I want to write the value for ZPH, ZPH is equals to TPH by 2. That's what is done here. Hence 4.44 has become 2.22 in this term. Rest terms are as it is. 4.44 is converted to 2.22. F phi is as it is. TPH is converted to ZPH. KW is again as it is. Then frequency formula, as I got, frequency is equals to PNS divided by 2, where small ns is synchronous speed in RPS. So output becomes equals to, see, at the start only we have written this. I am going to put all the values in the equation here. Output of 3-phase induction motor is equals to input into efficiency. That's what was the formula. So input voltage, input of the motor is this, which is converted by putting the values. I'm going to put these values, so it is converted. So what I have got, output is equals to 3 into, see, now how these terms are taken. First of all, I have written the formula for output is equals to input into efficiency. That is one thing. Second thing, input is written as input of the motor is equals to 3 VPH IPH cos phi into 10 raised to minus 3. This much kilowatt is the input. And in this formula of input, VPH value is calculated here with the help of this formula. So I need to put first of all the value of VPH in the formula of input, and then value of input into formula of output. Likewise the sequence goes. See what I said, I am going to put value of frequency into the value of VPH, value of VPH into the value of input, and value of input into the value of output. Likewise the sequence goes. So if I do that, finally after putting all the values, I will get output is equals to 3 into 2.22 into PNS by 2 into phi ZPH KW IPH efficiency eta cos phi into 10 raised to minus 3. So all these terms you can cross check, cross verify them after putting all these terms. This is the equation I have got for output, primary equation for output. Then in further stage, this ns by 2 means it is the term divided by 2 here. I am going to divide 2.22 with 2. So I will get here 1.11, and I will rearrange some terms, and after rearranging I will get this equation as rearranged here. After rearranging the equation which is shown here, I will get the equation as it is shown here. output is equals to 2.22 divided by 2 has become 1.11. Then I have written it as P phi 3 IPH ZPH. All other terms are mentioned later. NS, KW, efficiency, cos pi 10 raised to minus 3. Kilowatt is the unit. So what I did here, I have purposely used two different colors here so that you will understand what I am doing. I have written the terms P phi here. I have written the term 3 IPH ZPH. Reason behind that is I have the equation for BAV. BAV is specific electric loading, which is equals to, if you remember the formula, phi P upon pi dl. Out of it, phi P term I have got in this equation. So phi P is equals to pi dl into BAV. That value I am going to put. Apart from that, another term I have here is for specific electric loading. Specific electric loading in this term here, if you look at, I have the formula 3 IPH ZPH. And if you remember the formula for specific electric loading is total ampere conductors we said. So I Z upon pi d. Total ampere conductors. Total ampere conductors in this case IPH ZPH is taken. IPH ZPH is conductors, ampere conductors per phase, because IPH is per phase current, ZPH is conductors per phase, and as there are three phases we have multiplied it with 3. So total ampere conductors for the case of 3-phase motor becomes 3 IPH ZPH. These are the total ampere conductors. When you divide it with pi d, that becomes nothing but specific electric loading AC. So AC can be, so if I rearrange these terms, I can say 3 IPH ZPH is equals to AC into pi d. If you understood why I have rearranged these equations, then I can say for phi P, for this term phi P, I can write BAV pi dl, and for 3 IPH ZPH, I can write AC into pi d. So putting those values in this equation, output of motor will be 1.11 BAV pi dl AC pi d into NS KW efficiency eta cos pi 10 raised to minus 3. Here I have reached. KW given in the last is the unit for it. So further, after rearranging this, as D terms I can find, D is there, D is the term used here. So by combining those terms, I could say I have got pi term is also there. So by combining the terms, pi term is used twice. Combining all these terms, I can say Q is equals to 1.11 pi square BAV AC eta cos pi 10 raised to minus 3. Outside the bracket I have got D square LNS. KW here is the unit again, kilowatt. So if we rearrange the terms, I have used now, I have written it as further equals to C0. See, you have to look at this. I have written this as finally C0 D square LNS. C0 is the term which is nothing but all combination of all the terms present in this bracket, and D0 LNS. D is representing the diameter of stator, L is representing the length of stator, NS is synchronous speed in RPS. So final output equation of induction motor is this. 3-phase induction motor is this. This is final output equation. Q is equals to C0 D square LNS KW. KW is kilowatt here. Then this C0, what we have assumed for C0 is equals to 11 BAV AC KW efficiency eta cos pi into 10 raised to minus 3. This is the value for C0, and that is how the output equation of 3-phase induction is derived. I hope you will understand this. I hope you will understand each and every term which is mentioned here. Then If we go through the further part of the content which I have shown in the first slide of this presentation, then the further point is choice of specific magnetic loading. Choice of specific magnetic loading is dealing with what value of specific magnetic loading should be chosen as a designer. If I am a designer, what value I should choose, because it has a value starting from zero point 0.3 to 0.6. So I can have a number of values between 0.3 to 0.6. Which value has to be chosen? That is dependent on several factors, and those factors are as mentioned here. If I want the magnetizing current to be low, the power factor to be high, iron losses to be less, heating and temperature rise to be less or within the limit, and noise and vibration to be within the limit, then it is recommended to have low value of BAV. See, these are the factors. What I said is very important statement. See, if I want magnetizing current to be low, I want low value of BAV. It means there is direct proportion between magnetizing current and BAV. If I want the power factor to be high, I want low value of BAV. So there is inverse proportion between BAV and power factor. Next is iron loss. Iron losses should be always less. So if I want my iron loss to be less, Pi to be less, I want low value of BAV. It means there is direct proportion between Pi and BAV. Heating and temperature rise. Heating and temperature rise. If I want this to be in specific limit or it should be low, then BAV should be low. Hence again there is direct proportion. Same is the case for noise and vibration. So I hope you have understood these relations. On the other hand, there are few more relations. There are few more factors. Those are mentioned here. Overload capacity, size and cost. If you want to have the high overload capacity, if you want it high, then it is recommended to have BAV as high. It means BAV is proportional, directly proportional to the overload capacity. Higher the value of BAV, higher will be the value of overload capacity. Size of machine. If you want the size of machine to be small, if you want the machine to be small size, it is recommended to have high value of BAV. So I can say I can say the size of machine is inversely proportional to BAV. If BAV is high, then size is small, and it is always you must have small size of machine. It is recommended because it is going to affect on the cost of the machine, space and cost, weight, many things. Okay. Next factor is cost. If you want to if the cost of the machine to be low, then BAV value is recommended high. As we know, with high BAV, the size is going to be small. If size is small, cost will be low. So cost and BAV, they are, I can say, inversely proportional. Cost is proportional to 1 upon BAV. Higher the value of BAV, lower will be the cost for machine. So these are the factors. To understand few of them in better way, I have written few things here. VPH1 voltage per phase, which is given by 4.44. Then kW, this could be kW, in some of the books it is written kpd. F phi nph1. If voltage is constant, so for higher value of B, nph will be less. See, this is the voltage equation which we have just now used in deriving the output equation. So in this voltage equation, we need to understand if the voltage is constant, means if VPH is constant, and if we are using higher value of BAV, if flux density value is high. See, what I said is very important, friends. You need to consider VPH as constant and increase the value of BAV. Increasing the value of BAV means you are increasing the value of phi, flux phi, because flux density B is generally phi by A, right? So if you are increasing the value of B, flux value is high. Hence, in this equation, if I consider this equation, if I increase the value, VPH is constant, all the other terms are constant. If I increase phi, it means I am decreasing the value of N, that is number of turns. So number of turns are dependent on the flux density. If you want higher value of flux, number of turns should be less for constant voltage. Further, as we know, the leakage reactance is proportional to NPH square. Hence, leakage reactance will be low because we are reducing NPH value. If number of turns per phase are reduced, leakage reactance, which is proportional to square of it, will be less. Short circuit current ISC is more. This is up from circle diagram. So overload capacity will be more. Overall, what we said is, if you have high value of BAV, you will get better overload capacity. That's what is the justification you can understand out of it. And all these things are, you will understand, especially these two lines, last two lines, those are written here. You will understand them if you understand the circle diagram. In one of my previous videos, I have shown this circle diagram and I have discussed it. So circle diagram is very important, and according to that circle diagram, overload capacity decision we can make for better overload capacity, what should be the value for specific magnetic loading or average flux density in air gap. Further, as per the contents, the last part of the contents is choice of specific electric loading. Specific electric loading, if you remember, is represented with AC, and which is less or more similar to current density, as it has ampere conductors per unit length. Hence, I can say AC, while deciding the value of AC, what are the factors? So there are 5 factors, those are mentioned. If you want copper losses to be less, see, formula of AC, if you remember, that is Iz into Z divided by pi d. So Iz into Z, ampere conductors per unit periphery, right? So copper losses, those are dependent on the current. If you have high value of AC, it means current you have to increase. If current increases, the losses increases. So in order to have low copper loss, it is recommended to have low value of AC. Heating and temperature rise. Heating, again, heat produced due to electric current is given by simply I square RT, where I is current, R is resistance, and T is time for which the current is flowing. So the heat produced or temperature is proportional to square of current. So if I increase the value of AC, current is going to increase. If current increases, heat produces going to increase. Hence, to avoid heating and temperature rise, we should have low value of AC. Overload capacity, again, this is related to the circle diagram. If you want better overload capacity, AC value should be as low as possible. So see friends, I have told you 3 relations. First is related with the losses, copper losses, moreover copper losses, I can say. So Cu loss, for less copper loss you should have less value of AC, so I can say Cu loss is proportional to AC. Other is heating and temperature. For low heat and for low temperature, you should have AC as low as possible, so heat is also proportional to AC. Overload capacity, if you want better overload capacity, AC value should be high. Here the relation becomes inverse proportion. So overload capacity is inversely proportional to AC. So if you have higher value of AC, your overload capacity is less. If you want better overload capacity, AC should be small. Two more factors, those are important. One is size. If you take high value of AC, if AC value is very high, size of the machine is small. It means size of the machine is proportional to 1 upon AC. If you increase AC, size will be small. So for small size, AC should be recommended as high as possible. On the other hand, the cost of the machine is going to be less if size of machine is less, and size is less if AC is high. Hence, for low size or small size of machine and low cost, AC should be as high as possible. Further, I can say if AC is less, if AC is less, it means ampere conductors, IZ, ampere conductors is small. Ampere conductors is small, it means number of turns is small. Right? So if AC is less, number of turns represented here as NPH is small. And we know leakage reactance from circle diagram is proportional to square of number of turns. So if AC is small, leakage reactance will be small. Hence leakage reactance is small, we have written, and ISC is more. If leakage reactance is less, short circuit current is more, that is ISC is more from the circle diagram. Hence overload capacity is better. So final conclusion is, for better overload capacity, it is recommended to have AC value as low as possible, and this is the justification for it. I hope you have understood the concepts I have discussed in this video. For better understanding of the concepts, if you have any queries, I request you to post them through the comments. If you have really understood the concepts which I have discussed in this video, I request you to please subscribe this channel and please like this video. Thank you.